here first. First off, pull out your phones and your computers because you're going to want to take notes on these ones. We have the most incredible panel starting with Linus, Erik, Lyon, and Daniel, and they are going to teach us about business applications of digital assets. Give it up for them in real life and their incredible PFP pictures, which you can't get any better than that. Let's give it up for the squad.
Thank you, thank you. I
feel like an intro.
I know, I was gonna say, we have to live up to this intro now. That was a lot, man. Thank you, though, I appreciate it. Most knowledgeable people. Thank you guys for coming. My name is Erik Caputo. I am a founder of a Web3 consulting firm called Organic Studio. We do consulting and branding, and I have a number of my own projects that are in this space. I'm gonna pass it over.
Hey, I'm Lyon Hardgrave. I'm the CEO of Cantando. We are a marketplace for non-refundable reservations. We tokenize reservations as NFTs so they can be traded. So you can have a 7-day reservation, you have to leave early, you can sell the last 2 nights in the market. We're called the StubHub for hotels. We're live and running with multiple hotels. You can book rooms with us and trade with us anytime you want.
Hey guys, my name is Dan Cantando. I'm the CEO of Social House. We're a member club based here in New York City. We offer our members access to the best clubs, restaurants, and social events.
Hey, I'm Linus Chung. I'm VP of Product at Origin Protocol. What we do is we build an NFT platform that's a little bit like Shopify for NFTs. We work with beloved Web3 collections like Pudgy Penguins and big brands like SpaceX and Roofstock to help them run their NFT business and community.
Yeah, thanks everyone. So the title of this panel discussion is the business applications of digital assets. And I say digital assets because it is my perspective that NFTs have a weird stigma around them, right? When you think of NFT, you're thinking of a Bored Ape or something like that. But the power of smart contracts and digital assets expand way beyond just NFTs or artwork or digital assets, and it can really apply to a number of businesses and industries that can span from like real estate to, we're talking about hotel booking. So as the first question that we're going to get into for this panel here, what is, and I'll answer at the end, my answer, I'll let you guys kind of speak first, but what are some uncommon use cases right now of digital assets, or maybe even talk about what you're currently doing like with the hotel booking and how that's becoming more normalized and how that affects like the community and these people?
Yeah, so I mean, from my perspective, I'm actually sort of disappointed with the NFT community because the chance to take digital assets for unique rights and make those tokenized or transferable and tradable is, for me, the killer use case of NFTs. And there's still a lot of focus on collectibles, other kind of use cases, but we're missing out on the ability to open up commerce in a way that tokenized assets that give you rights to something that is a digital right. So for example, a ticket to a concert, or in our case, hotel bookings. The ability to tokenize those rights and sell them and provide value and make them transferable is the ultimate use case for this. So to give you an example that we use hotel bookings, for me the ultimate use case actually is airlines. If you're waiting to get on a plane and your wife is in labor and you want to be on that flight, your flight's been canceled, there's a plane leaving, you would pay $10,000 to be on that plane. You have to get on that plane. But there's no way right now for you to transfer that right, to purchase that right from somebody else who's on that plane. There should be a way that you can send a request to the whole plane and say, I want to buy your seat. Somebody can sell it to you. You can transfer that right digitally on the blockchain as an NFT. We do the same thing for hotel bookings. Those are the use cases that unlock real value. And the key for NFTs to expand beyond the relatively limited use they have right now to the mainstream is to create use cases that have real utility for regular normies, right? For people like my wife who she uses her phone, she uses her apps for things that make her life better. We have got to create NFT use cases for regular people that improve the utility of their daily lives, and that's when you really unlock the value of this technology.
Now, can I question that real quick? Because what I think would be really interesting, because when we talk about normies, right, it's the adoption of like, I got to get a wallet, I got to purchase. So how can you leverage like easy to use UI for somebody that is not crypto savvy, that doesn't know how to get a MetaMask, right? How do we do and integrate this into that type of ecosystem to make that onboarding like seamless, essentially?
Yeah, so I mean, the previous speaker, she mentioned some of the bridges, and two she mentioned, which are right, is one, you have to give most people a Web 2 experience, right? You have to custody the wallet for them. You have to take care of the kind of the difficult, hairy parts of it so that people don't have to worry about that. And you have to accept fiat. You have to give them a way of paying in the way it's familiar to them. There might be a migration path over time that allows you to have a true Web 3 experience. But you can't expect people, and you certainly can't expect companies to jump into a Web 3 future. You have to give them a migration path. At Cantando, we've been very, very focused on giving hotels a migration path from Web 2 to Web 3 that makes them comfortable, because these are executives that are old like me, and they don't want to risk their career on some harebrained idea, right? They want to know that you're going to give them a path to this kind of next technological epic that is relatively safe for them. And so we're very focused always on doing that. It's very important for the industry to do that, is to give people bridges so they can kind of, normies can move from the current experience to something that's more Web 3.
Yeah.
Just to piggyback off what Lyon was just saying, I think it's also way too expensive to educate Web 2 users into Web 3, and the clutter stops them from adopting Web 3 technology. That's what we've seen at Social House.
Yeah, definitely.
So I'm going to be spicy here. I've got a little bit of a contrarian take. While I agree that the user experience has got to be better, I actually don't think that in today's market, creating a Web 2 experience is enough. I actually think that if you're a business trying to get into NFTs, the way you should think about capturing value or capturing users' attention is make at least one very painful aspect of people's lives 10x better than the traditional way of doing things. The last bull market has definitely shown that people will go through all of the hoops of acquiring crypto, getting a MetaMask wallet, because there is some carrot at the end of that tunnel that is way better than the traditional way of doing things. And I think that the user experience is going to get better, right? That people are working on the infrastructure, account abstraction I'm really excited about, today's Shanghai upgrade with Ethereum, all of that is coming. But I think just like with the pain of dialing up for the internet, right? Like just making that experience better is of just, for example, taking a screenshot of today's newspaper and putting that online is not enough. You got to lean into the superpower of crypto and NFTs, and people are going to want to go through those hoops to get that better experience.
That was awesome.
So I guess it's my turn. So one of the use cases that I think is really interesting, and I've talked to a lot of people about this, is basically creating a soul-bound NFT that can be used for all your loyalty programs, all your membership programs, healthcare, and tying that in with a Google Wallet, your Apple Wallet, so that you scan one dynamic QR code anywhere you go. The thing that's holding people back from implementing this right now is changing the metadata. It's a little bit complicated, a little bit cumbersome, but I think with blockchain encryption, making metadata changes easier, we'll start to see a lot more token gating through the use of dynamic QR codes, and it's all we can put it all in one place, not 20 different QR codes. So.
Yeah, so back to the first question of use cases that I'm really excited about. Ultimately, I think the superpower of NFTs or digital assets here is making the illiquid liquid, right? So you think about an analogy here of the peer-to-peer, the sharing economy, right? There were idle assets sitting everywhere. There were people with summer vacation homes and extra couch and things like that, and they can make use of those things. And now there's a huge industry of people in Airbnb making money through Uber, making use of their extra time, making use of their extra kind of like the car that they have. And I think with digital assets, you can actually take things that were traditionally very illiquid, very locked up, but held a lot of value, and make them super liquid. An example here, I'm really bullish on what Pictada is doing. That's an idea that I had of, what if you could actually trade hotel reservations? And sure enough, you've got a great builder that's actually building that. So it seems like we're onto something. At Origin, we actually partnered with this Web 2 brand, Roofstock, that has been selling homes online the Web 2 way for a while. And we actually worked with them with a very, very nascent Web 3 group to actually tokenize real estate legally on the blockchain through NFTs. We built their marketplace, and through that, we sold a number of homes instantly on the blockchain, where owning an NFT is actually equivalent in the real world to actually owning that home. So think about that as a stepping stone to ultimately really unleashing the power of what is traditionally considered a very illiquid asset. You can actually make markets much more efficient.
I just going to mention Roost Stock CEO Gary Beasley. He's actually one of our advisors, so I know their business well. It's a great idea.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, I think that everyone brought up some like really good points, like tokenization, soulbound NFTs. All of these are like very tangible use cases. Digital twin work, where you have the physical to the digital for authenticity, for provenance of, you know, any high value asset that would be physical. We're talking jewelry, we're talking artwork. Now it's on clothing, being able to tie with NFC chips to smart contracts. I guess a question, this is kind of out of the blue, but I'm thinking of decentralization, right? When we're talking about Web3, the idea of decentralization has always been like, I don't know, I'm pro decentralization, but I understand that we're at like a Web 2.5 where some centralization is going to be needed for any type of growth. And a lot of the people that I'm talking about like real business use cases is almost full decentralized, where you're owning your specific data. I had a conversation with somebody today about owning your phone number as an NFT and transacting calls via nodes. So instead of utilizing like a Verizon or something, you introduce a mesh node network. Like it actually exists, I believe it's called New York City Mesh, where now you have nodes set up across the city, and if you're trying to call point A to point B, you utilize the number as an NFT, and you make that transaction or that call via your digital asset, and you own all of the communication that would come between the two. Verizon doesn't have your text or your call or any of that log, so that's full ownership of your data. Now we're talking about, you know, selling hotel reservations and stuff like that, where you own now that reservation. That is your reservation. That's not sitting on like Trivago or all of these other booking sites. So are we full decentralization? Like, what are you guys thinking?
Yeah, so I'll jump in first on that. So yeah, I mean, I guess I have to make a confession at this conference. We're not totally decentralized. We're not fully NFTs, right? We are a hybrid of NFTs and centralized databases. And we get a lot of questions from investors and other people like, why do you even need an NFT? Why not just have it fully centralized? And you could have what we're doing on a fully centralized basis. Like Ticketmaster has a database of all the tickets they're selling. And if you want to book a ticket, you make a trade on StubHub or someplace else, it goes through some centralized database. And that works. The problem with that, and the reason we want to get away from that in the long term, is that gives you one user experience that's attached to that back-end pool of assets. And you have to go through that user experience. You have to go through StubHub's user experience or Ticketmaster's user experience to access the pool of assets they supply. In a fully decentralized world with tokenized assets, you could build a bunch of different user experiences that could be very customized and specific that reach into that same pool of assets. So again, we're doing hotel room nights, and we have one user experience right now. But in the future, there might be a site that specializes in bachelorette parties, and they create, you know, experiences for bachelorette parties, a user experience about that. And if you're going to book a set of rooms or a set of villas or a set of properties, you can reach it. They can reach into that pool of assets and pull them out in whatever way you need them to. And that really is the future of a decentralized asset. It allows multiple specific user experiences to reach into a single set of assets, which I guess the clearest analogy right now would be the stock market. The stock market's one ledger of assets, but there's thousands of different sites, or same thing with crypto, that allow you to go and interact with those assets in different user experiences. As you decentralize more and create more NFT-based assets, it allows for that universe of different customer experiences to grow.
Yeah, good idea. One thing to add on, something I just thought about while you were saying that, is it could even be the same use case for different demographics, right? So like you're pulling like luxury hotels on one site and then cheaper hotels on the other, kind of what Airbnb does now. But going back to Eric's question, I think it really depends on the customer or the people that you're targeting. I think different use cases require different levels of decentralization right now where we are. For us specifically, we found through trial and error, starting as an NFT company, then kind of pivoting towards more the angle of private membership, that the current club goers, the current socialites aren't necessarily ready to fully buy in with tokenization, fully buy in with Web3 wallets and crypto, and we make that as easy as possible for them to get in and educate them once they're in.
Ultimately, I like to think about things, whether it's decentralization versus centralization argument, kind of in terms of like, what is the customer value? What is the customer value of a decentralized protocol or a decentralized thing? Ultimately, decentralization has its downsides, right? Like, it's a lot slower to make decisions, so things just move a lot slower. But ultimately, decentralization is about, to paraphrase or to use an NFT term, people don't want to be rug pulled, right? Like when you think about Web 2 companies, the motto these days is just trust us, right? Whether it's the TikTok CEO or Mark Zuckerberg going in front of Congress, they say, how can we be assured that you're not using our data for nefarious things? Just trust us. Well, if it was a decentralized organization and everything was transparent, there's no way that certain executives or certain centralized organizations can make these decisions. And so that's ultimately the value of decentralization, that no one can rug pull you. No one can change the rules upon you. You mentioned even the stock market, right? So you think about the stock market, that's such a legacy institution. Well, there are certain instances where there's so much trading volume that is happening that the stock market makes a centralized decision to pause trading on a particular stock at the moment where people need to trade it, right? And so decentralization, you can't do that with decentralization. But ultimately, in terms of practical terms, I am a big fan of progressive decentralization, where whether it's a product or a network, they start off centralized, right? They start off centralized with the ultimate intention, true intention to progressively decentralize. That way you can sort of bootstrap the network, get users, make decisions fast, grow adoption, but ultimately hand over control to a decentralized group of users and ultimately get incentives aligned.
It's a great comment.
I just want to snap because you just really end everything with like an awesome closing to that. So we're all founders here, right? So two things, I'm going to do a two-part question with a lot of the time that we have left. One is onboarding, right? What are the difficulties that we've all faced? I think that we've touched a little bit about like possible user experience and how we can get people to get onboarded in custodial wallets or stuff like that. And then another one would be like, for 2023, obviously, we all have predictions. We all have an idea of where this is going. I think probably every panel gave some opinion of where the future of NFTs and Web3 go. So I'm going to kind of kick it off first, and then I'll pass it off to you guys, right? So something that I've experienced, because a lot of the work that I do is B2B. It's not necessarily B2C. So I work with businesses on how we can integrate and move into Web3 and expand their current business models. So I work with a lot of Web2 companies, and when we talk about Web3, everyone's excited. Everyone wants to be a cutting-edge innovation. I want to be this business that's doing the next level with technology. And ultimately, like we said here, like, not every use case matters. Like I had people that own a gym that were like, how do I integrate Web3? And it's like, you don't need to. It's not worth your time and effort right now because your business model makes sense and you're generating revenue. So if your goal as a business is to generate more revenue, we need to do a cost analysis of, okay, what is the steps for us to get into business in Web3 and like really understand what your goal is as a business entering Web3. Why are we doing it? It's not just a fad. You're just trying to follow along the technology, fine, but is there an actual use case or business model that makes sense? So my interactions with businesses is they've been trying to join the wave is what I'll say, but ultimately where we're at with digital assets and NFTs, it doesn't work with everyone, and it's not going to work with everyone for a little bit here. Like we're still early, and it's going to take time, but to have people understand that and not see the wave and try to hop on is hard, and it's hard to communicate that. And then as a consultant, it's like you got A or B. You know, B is you pay me and I try to make it work, or A, you just turn around. It is. And then my prediction for 2023, I would say same prediction for 2022. I think we're going to be in steady growth. We're in a bear market. I think a lot of people that were here for quick flips and making money got out for the most part. All these like But it's also hard to say that with the current social dynamic of what Web3 is. You have still daily sellouts of projects that are like no utility, doesn't mean anything. There's nothing there. There's no tangibility. And I find it hard for this ecosystem to see the value of digital assets. If it wasn't for us on stage talking about the hard value of what digital assets are instead of NFT quick flips, smart contracts offer so much more to a business than just a means of revenue generation. There's so much you can do. So I think it's just steady growth for 2023, but I don't think Web3 takes full adoption until, I'll say, 2025, 2026. We're still 2-3 years out, in my opinion.
Yeah, so, I mean, besides the fact that I think hotel reservations would be revolutionized this year, but actually the use case that I see that's similar to ours, but the one that I think is on the cusp of kind of going mainstream is the firms who are doing ticketing, so concert tickets and other types of tickets for events where people are getting the NFTs, they're getting the, they're getting the ability to trade those as they would, but what they're definitely then doing, which is different, is that now once they do an NFT of a band or any kind of group, there's now a relationship directly between that band and that user that doesn't require a Ticketmaster or a StubHub or somebody in the way. There can be a direct relationship where that band can then drop other types of incentives directly into those users' wallets who owned tickets to previous concerts, or you can give them access to special types of events that nobody else gets access to. So that ability for people to collect assets that make them part of a loyalty group, that is going to show up and starting to show up very strongly in ticketing. And I really think that's the one that's going to be one of the first breakthrough use cases for utility NFTs in 2023.
Yeah, I was actually talking to a musician yesterday who was talking about building a platform, fixing the promotional aspect of artists. So right now, Spotify, Apple Music, there's no way for artists to actually get in touch with their fans, right? And I guess what he's building is the go-to place to talk to your artists, where they can interact, sell tickets, engage with their fans. Right now, when you think of that, where do they go, right? Do you go to Instagram? Do you go to Facebook, TikTok, 20 other platforms? And they're doing this through decentralized platform. Back to the original question Eric asked. I think for me, the biggest adoption challenge was navigating bad actors in the space, everyone trying to take advantage of the crypto hype in the bull market when we started. That was really tough in the beginning. And then educating users on Web3 technology was also a challenge. And the way we've navigated that is connecting with great people like the people I'm on stage with here, where they can plug us into solutions that work and make the user experience continually better over time.
Yeah, my big prediction for 2023 is all of the things that people were hoping for about better user experience. I think we're going to start to see mainstream adoption of new technologies that make that possible, right? You're already seeing the proliferation of layer 2 technology, where transaction costs are much cheaper, transactions are much faster, it can handle higher loads. So then bigger use cases like gaming, for instance, can be enabled. Account abstraction, I mentioned that. Not important what the word is, but ultimately this will create that simple user experience where people don't have to deal with seed phrases, but ultimately get the trust and security of self-custody, right? So the best of all worlds. The technology is coming. The user experience is coming. I have no doubt about that. What I am excited about, though, is the builders in the space. The people that are still dreaming and building in this room, potentially right now, away from all the hype. Typically in bear markets, that's when the really, really big winners are created, right? So some entrepreneur right now is dreaming up ideas that can be done in Web3 that were never even possible before, and those are really going to hit their strides a couple years out there and really reimagine what it means to own things and to transact and to do things. Ultimately, these are all fundamental human needs, right? You think about, okay, people are a little bit dismissive of PFPs and things like that, but ultimately that's a human need of like identity and who you are and what communities you build. And digital collectibles, collecting is a human thing that has been there since we were cave people. And I think ultimately like it's just going to take that next form with Web3, and I'm really excited for that.
Wow, good work everyone. Yeah, that was awesome. Thank you guys for coming in and listening to business
Thank you.
applications of digital
Thank you.
assets.
Thank you very much.